I think my trajectory is the same as kind of the universal trajectory for the way I see it, generally speaking. So first, it was just my own suffering, and wanting to transcend that, wanting to figure out how to move beyond it, how to, so that was really that's a major drive, when you're suffering. And I think there's a point where you realize that there might be a way out, there might be a way, and it comes from within. It's your responsibility. So that's a big shift too, because a lot of people spend a lot of time doing the opposite of what you said, which is, you're talking about not taking things personally. A lot of people do take things personally, and they're blaming other people and projecting for all of their problems. And we can argue about whether it is somebody else's fault or not somebody else's fault. It doesn't really matter. The point is, the only way to kind of get out of the situation you're in is um, from taking responsibility within yourself and being the change you want to see, as Gandhi originally said. So 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 suffering, and then realizing that if I took full responsibility, I could maybe find a way out of it. That was a huge um, source of purpose and inspiration. And then as I'm discovering the answer to the questions for myself, I'm realizing, well, these are universal truths that can apply to everyone. So I'm helping other people by realizing these things for myself along the way. And then I think there's a point where it shifts, where it's not about just how do I end my own suffering. It's not about you personally as much at all anymore. You kind of the sense of you expands out, and you recognize yourself as part. It's hard to even put in words, but you recognize yourself as not separate from the collective, not separate from the universe. And so then from that place, the purpose is to be of highest benefit to the whole, to the collective, and and that creates this real powerful um, drive. But it's very interesting because it's different than the egoic drive. Um, so the egoic drive is very strong, also can be very strong, but the egoic drive is like, you know, I want people to recognize me. I want them to see that I'm better than they are. I want them to see that um, it's really coming from a kind of ultimately from a lack of self love, right? We were talking about earlier. It's like, so then the ways that people try to get love is through, let me show you how much money I have. Let me show you how many houses I have or cars, or let me show you how physically beautiful I am, or all these a whole different variety of ways. How important my job is, what my position is so important, all of these kind of things. But when you go into this other thing that we're talking about, none of that is the real motivation anymore. It's to be of really, it's love, right? This is a long way of talking about love. It's like it's a way of bringing love into the world, and being a positive source of support and service to the world, and that looks different for each person. That's a really important point. For someone that might be being a dishwasher in a restaurant. For someone else, it might be being prime minister of a country. It can, on all the variety like in between. So just goes back to that intuitive listening to what is that for you, and not only that, but it can change within your lifetime and probably will. So that's where we get those kind of hard, those like, what, but I'm comfortable doing this. I don't want to do something totally different, but, God's telling you like, nope, that's over now. Even though you've done, you have the money, nope, you got to start totally over and do something totally different. And you can try to like avoid that and, workaholic, I don't want to listen to that. But when you get quiet, that voice is there, that truth is there. And so we're constantly listening, and constantly listening if this is continually the right thing for us, or if we're being guided in a different direction. And ultimately, it all comes down to just following God's will in the moment, following the truth of the moment, listening to the source, and responding moment by moment. And really, this is the wow of the now, right? Really, this moment is all there is, and that may end up looking very consistent. Maybe you'll do the same thing. You'll have the same relationship, the same job, the same hometown your whole life, and that's you listening to the moment. And maybe you'll live in 10 different places, and travel all over the world, and it's different for each person.
I really appreciate you sharing that, and it resonates with me quite a bit. I was over here chuckling on mute when you were talking about the shift, because I went through something like that in my late 20s